Hey everybody, this is Trish Jones and you are watching episode 1 of the Influential Woman podcast. Now, let me explain why I'm actually doing a video podcast rather than an audio podcast. First of all, I'm just kind of trialing this because I have started up the Influencer World podcast, which I've been doing daily, giving you inspirational, educational, motivational tips. They are about 3 to 8 minutes long, although they've been about 10 minutes so far. So I decided that rather than doing this podcast as an audio podcast as well, I would mix it up and do video instead. But I'm trialing it, as I said, so I'll see how I go. Now, last night I was actually doing the Influencer World podcast, and I was doing a subject that's actually very dear to my heart, and that is the entrepreneurial spirit. And I must admit, as I was recording the video, there was an element of me, recording the podcast, there was an element of me that just felt that I needed to put it on video. So despite the fact that I recorded an audio podcast last night talking about the entrepreneurial spirit, I felt that it was absolutely necessary to get it onto more than one platform because, as I said, it is dear to my heart, along with the subject of finding your voice. And I'm just going to backtrack a little bit, right? For some of you who have been following the Influential Woman, and certainly Women of Influence, when I had that domain name, I sold that a number of months ago. But I was actually doing the podcast, and then I kind of stopped, and I've decided to start again, right? Probably not the best thing to do, but hey, I've done it anyway. I'm not asking permission, right? But when I restarted up the fan page on Facebook, and women really started engaging, which was great. And so I started asking them, what do you want from me? Do you want more inspirational stuff, or do you want me to mix it up with the business building elements? And the feedback generally was, well, I really like the inspirational stuff, and the business building stuff is important, but I think you should keep that separate because everybody likes the inspirational stuff. And that wasn't everybody, but it was certainly some people, and these were people in particular who wanted to start their own business, whether it was hairdressing or doing nails, massage, etc. Now, without exception, every single one of them said that they know that they need to get their business online. So if they were going to have a salon, for example, or a mobile hairdresser, that they would need to get their business online. But they were kind of shying away from the business building tips, almost as if it was going to be contaminating the page, right? And I thought about it long and hard, and I thought, fear of the unknown is one of the things that keeps us trapped in, I was going to use the term our ignorance, but if I do, I don't mean it in a rude way, but it kind of keeps us trapped from what we ought to know. And I know that there are a lot of entrepreneurial women out there. In fact, even the group of people that I'm surrounded by, whether they're friends or family or extended family, I can see the entrepreneurial spirit in so many of these people, and so many of these women talk about starting their own business. And I am particularly for the mum, right? Whether she's a stay-at-home mum or whether she's a working mum, when I listen to these people talk about their gifts and their talents and how they would love to do, my ears kind of perks up, my eyes open, and certainly my heart opens, because I'm one of these women that when I decided that I was going to have a child, I decided that I wasn't going to go back to work because I didn't want anybody else to look after my child. And it was a shock to my family. I'm serious. My family were shocked that I was giving up my career. But I wanted to look after my child myself, and I wanted my cake and eat it. So I decided that I was going to set up my coaching practice online, and this was 11 years ago. And so this is where we are now. So today I actually want to talk about the entrepreneurial spirit, because I want to specifically talk to those women who may perhaps believe that they don't have an entrepreneurial spirit. And I'm going to break it down for you in easy, simple steps to show you that it is possible for you to be an entrepreneur and be a mum and run your own business. And a couple of months ago, my husband said to me, I think you ought to remove the word entrepreneur from, women entrepreneur from your website and just have women, right? And I listened to what he said. I didn't at first, actually. But then I thought to myself, yeah, maybe he's got a point, right? So I removed the term entrepreneur from women entrepreneur. And the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking of putting it back, because it's like having a baby, right? You don't turn around and say, well, the baby doesn't really understand you. You just talk to the baby until it understands. And I'm not coming out with a concept or a term that is alien. But what I decided that I need to do is to educate women in particular, because that's who I'm speaking to explain to them why they have an entrepreneurial spirit and why there is no need to run away from the tools and all of the resources that's going to help them do what they need to do online. Because, I'm very big on influence. I am very much about the women getting more of themselves and their voice into the marketplace. And in order to get influence, we have got to do something, right? And in this day and age, it is probably going to involve the internet in some way, if we're talking about building our platform. And so rather than agree with you all and allow you to shy away, I've decided that the best thing to do is to just give more education in this area in the simplest way, so that I hope that it spreads like wildfire. So I want you guys to do me a favor. When you've watched this video, I want you to share it. I want you to share it with your friends. And I know that there are those of you watching this video today who have friends who have an entrepreneurial spirit. In fact, I'm biting my tongue right now, right? Because there are certain women that I have spoken to on Facebook, and some of them are in my circle, and I don't necessarily mean circle of influence, in terms of family, friends, and extended friends, whom I know have an entrepreneurial spirit, whom I know should be doing business, and I so want to call you out, right? Not to embarrass you, but to say, come on, get on with it. And I'm not going to, right? I'm not going to be mean, but don't push me, right? Because I might do it one day. So, the question: do you have an entrepreneurial spirit? Or more importantly, do you recognize that you have an entrepreneurial spirit? And when I did my MBA some years ago, 2001, I think I finished, or was it? Yeah, 2001. One of the questions that came up often was, are entrepreneurs born or made? And this question has probably been going on from time immemorial. Are entrepreneurs born or made? Now, what I will say is that where I think people get very complicated is, number one, they look at the Richard Bransons of this world and they describe Sir Richard, as an entrepreneur, but they don't perhaps see that their small business that they are running as entrepreneurships. And the other thing I will say is, I read an article some time ago where small businesses don't want to be recognized as entrepreneurs. They are saying, we are small businesses, not entrepreneurs. I could say a lot about that, and I did at the time, because sometimes when people have small businesses, they also have small minds. This is not the people I am talking to, and in terms of those people that I'm talking about calling out, I don't believe that you're one of those either. Entrepreneurs, in my view, have something in common, which is this: they have a message that they want to get out there, and they don't want to just stay a small business. They want to make a difference with their message. Gosh, I can actually feel myself getting excited now, right? Because we have a message, right? And we are influencers. And if we're going to be influencers, we have to build our platform. So in my view, there are going to be the brilliant ones who everybody recognizes as an entrepreneur. And so, as I said, Sir Richard Branson, everybody recognizes that he's an entrepreneur, and they read his story and some of the things that his mum did, like leave him in the middle of nowhere and say, make your own way home, Richard. And, then there are those who always had their lemonade stand at the end of their street, when they were 6, 7 years old. They were the best seller of the cupcakes or whatever for Scouts, and everybody says, wow, they are entrepreneurial. And then there are those who have no idea that they were entrepreneurs until, they might even have been 40 or 50 before they recognized that there was something in them that was entrepreneurial that they had never recognized before. And even though I'm speaking to entrepreneurs who want to have their own business, who want to create their own platform, let me tell you, there are entrepreneurs who work for corporations. And, I'm not being big-headed when I say that I was an entrepreneur even when I was working for a corporation. I never walked into work with this view that, I'm working for an organization and I'm just giving them everything. Maybe I thought of that at the end, right? Maybe I thought like that at the end, get out and go and use your skills and talents in the way that you want to use them and not the way you've been told to use them. But when I went into work day in and day out, I took the view that I was making a difference to that organization and to other people's lives. And so I know that there are probably people even watching this who are working for an organization who have that skill and that ability. And then there are those people who are still working for an organization that think, I want to get out there. I want to do my own thing. And I always say that there is no other corporation in the world that is going to enable you to use all of your own gifts, your talents, and your abilities apart from that corporation that is called corporate you. Right? So working for anybody else is not going to give you that. But still, I am not saying you give up your job and become an entrepreneur in your own right. Be that entrepreneur in that company, in that organization until you feel it's right. So, are entrepreneurs born or are they made? They are both. They are both, in my view. Some people, they have to develop certain characteristics until they realize that they have an entrepreneurial spirit, and some people just know. They don't know what the term is, but they just know that there's something about them. They're go-getters, they're hustlers, right? They've got to make things happen. When I said hustler just now, by the way, I was laughing because many years ago, I remember speaking to my cousin, and she said her mum, who is my great aunt, said about my grandmother, whom I was raised with, that, man, she was a real-time higgler. Now, a higgler, and I don't know how you spell it, I'll have to ask some of my Jamaican friends, right? A higgler is somebody who worked in the marketplace, and I don't know what my nan sold, but she did. And my aunt was saying she wasn't just a small-time higgler, she was a big-time higgler. She knew how to hustle. But did anybody tell my grandmother that she was an entrepreneur? Did anybody even explain the term entrepreneurship to her? If she were still alive today, I would love to ask her, did you know what it was? But no, they have a cause, right? Or they have something to sell. Or if you're in Jamaica, it's about you have to make money, right? And so therefore you're going to go out there and you're going to hustle like a higgler. So anyway, I thought I'd just bring that one in. But let me tell you why I believe that more people are entrepreneurial than they recognize. And let me also tell you why you qualify as being an entrepreneur, even if you thought you weren't. It's really simple, right? It is really, really simple. You were born with abilities, you were born with talents, and you were born with gifts. And God didn't say one day when you were growing in your mother's womb, let me think about what I'm going to do with this person. I really don't know. Let me think long and hard. No. Your purpose was already determined before you were born. Your gifts and your talents and abilities were already decided before you were born. And you were born with certain gifts, talents, and abilities. Now, you have to develop those gifts, talents, and abilities, right? It is no point thinking that, for example, if you want to get to the Olympics, that, you want to be another Usain Bolt, and you think that just running is going to help you get there, but you're not going to do any of the other exercises, or you just know that you're a good runner and you're going to turn up on competition day and you're going to win. You're probably going to look like a bit of an idiot, right? So we have to put pressure on our gifts and our talents and our abilities in order to stretch them, in order to develop them. Right? So you have gifts, talents, and abilities, and we often take advantage of those gifts, talents, and abilities. We do things that is so easy for us that other people say, wow, just don't know how you do that. And you just do it so naturally. It's so natural to you that you have uh, taken it for granted, right? Taken it for granted. But that's a really, really good thing. So even now, I want you to start thinking about that gift or that ability or that talent that you have that you do so naturally that you take for granted. And sorry, fly on the window. I apologize, got distracted there. In order to be an entrepreneur, you have to have a gift. You have to have a talent. You have to have an ability. They're more or less the same thing, right? And so that already qualifies you to become an entrepreneur. Now, what does it take to become an entrepreneur, right? To actually move from that stage of thinking and knowing that you have those gifts and your talents to making a difference, to selling your product, right? The first thing is that you have to have, well, three things, right, that you need in order to be an entrepreneur. The first thing is a talent or a gift, a skill. And we've already qualified you for that, right? You already have that. So you're doing well so far. And the second thing is you need a product or a service that is based on that skill, ability, or talent. And that product or service must solve somebody's problem, right? So you're going to create a product or sell a product or sell a service that is going to solve somebody else's problem. And then the third one is the ability to persuade others that they need your product or service, that your product or service is actually going to help them overcome whatever problem it is. Now, I know that some of you have already said, ouch, that's the area that I can't go there, oh my gosh, I'm no good at persuading. First and foremost, I'm not talking about manipulation here, right? I am not talking about taking over somebody's mindset and doing the psychological thing, almost hypnotizing them into buying your product. What I'm talking about here is, let's, for example, say that somebody has a really bad back and you have a product that is going to cure their back. You need to, be able to tell them why they're getting a backache, right? You then need to tell them what needs to happen in order for this backache to stop, and then how your product is going to stop their backache. That's all. That's what you need to do. And once you actually are able to do that, and it might be in a number of different ways, right, because some people receive information differently than others, but once you are able to do that, you are in business. Well, actually, there's another element to it, which I've actually forgotten. You're not quite in business yet, right? But you have the makings of what is required to be an entrepreneur. Let's not dumb this down that, it sounds stupid. You need to build a platform. That's the other thing. You might have a shop on the high street where you sell your product. You might have a storefront on the internet where you sell your product. But you also then need a way to tell people about your product or your service. And so, let's go traditional just for a while. You might have had the classified ads, you might have had radio, you might have had TV. Do those things work nowadays? I'm not saying that they don't, but they're not very targeted. So let's bring it to today. We now have the internet and we have social media, and you decide which platform you're going to be on. Are you going to have a TV platform? So, hey, TV platform, you have YouTube. You can now have a radio platform, iTunes, podcast. You can have a publishing platform, as in writing publishing, a blog. And you get your message out there via your blog, or build your platform on YouTube, or you build your platform on iTunes. you can use a combination of those, but I always suggest that you start with one. And then you have all of the other social media platforms that you can use. Again, I would suggest you use one. I don't want to go into that in too much detail here, but what I would say is don't overload yourself, but definitely go where your people are going. So if you know that there's a forum where people are talking about ailments and issues and backache in particular, you want to go where those people are. Right? But you can build your platform online, getting your message out there, and that makes you no less of an entrepreneur than Richard Branson. I mean, okay, Richard Branson would think differently, and I don't blame him because, you know, he's built up a great empire. But Richard Branson, Sir Richard Branson, sorry, let me keep correcting myself. Sir Richard Branson didn't start off with Virgin Airlines. He started off in fact, I'm not quite sure where he started off, but obviously at Virgin Records. And then one day, apparently, he said to his friend, let's start an airline. You know, and his friend thought he was crazy. And in fact, I think it was Thailand he was going over to, and the plane had been cancelled. And he decided that he had this pretty young girl that he was going over to meet in Thailand. I think it was Thailand anyway. And he was going to get there by hook or by crook. And so he chartered a private airline and then had a billboard that he made himself, and he held it up, and he said something like, and I'm paraphrasing, right, $325 or pounds, because he's in England, £325 per ticket. So all of these people who also wanted to get to whatever destination, as I said, I believe it was Thailand, bought a ticket from him. Right now, that is what I call resourceful entrepreneurship. But just because Richard Branson is able to do that doesn't mean that you can't do that in your own way for your business. And we've got to start thinking more creatively about what we do. And blueprints are great, right? Following idols are great, looking at idols, but we're not to follow them to the extent that we lose ourselves, that we forget ourselves. And so I'm coming to the end of this podcast for today, but what I really want to leave you with is for you to consider, in fact, for you to write down and to ask people around you, what are those things that you are really good at, that you take for granted, that you don't even recognize anymore. And whilst I'm not going to call her name out, right, I'm so biting my lip. I know that there is one person I know in particular who has, I think is it 4 or 5 children, and talk about organized, right? Organized in getting those children to school, and organizing the house, and getting the shopping, and then going to the gym and exercising. There are 2 things that she does really, really great, and one of them is she knows a lot about exercise and nutrition, etc. And she's actually lost a lot of weight. And so kudos to her. And the other thing is that she is a fantastic organizer. And in fact, I mentioned it to my brother one day, and I mentioned this name, and he went, just don't mention her, right? Just don't mention her, because I just get so frustrated, you know, because she is so good at X, Y, Z. You know, my brother recognized it to the extent that he was frustrated with her. And so I am not going to stop talking about entrepreneurship. I am not going to stop talking about building your platform. I am not going to stop talking about your message out there. Rather than me pull away from talking about the entrepreneurial woman, I am going to educate you more about what the entrepreneurial woman looks like and what she can do and how influential she is. And just to finish off, let me just talk about Maya Angelou. That woman has inspired me no end, right? In fact, I bought my dad the book after she died, and my dad read it in no time, right? It took about 2 weeks to arrive because, why? Because they reprinted it to talk about her, the fact that she'd passed. And Maya Angelou was an activist. Everybody recognized her as an activist. She had a mouth on her, some might say, but she built her platform in TV. Also, she did some government work and radio, etc., etc. But even Maya Angelou, in her years, or I don't know how long, right, before she died, she was posting stuff up on Facebook. In fact, I'd heard of her before, but I'd not taken much notice until one day she put up a quote, and it was about basically being quiet about something that had happened. And obviously she was talking about when she was raped and how she was silent for so many years. And I so resonated with what she said because of what I'd experienced when I was younger, of being abused, not by a family member. Every single time I use that word, I make it very clear, not by a family member. But I so resonated with Maya Angelou, I started looking into her quotes and noticing her quotes when she put them out, because she inspired me so much. But she built a platform on the internet using Twitter and Facebook, and yet she came from traditional TV. She did film, she was in Roots, she was in a couple of other films as well. You know, she's highly recommended, in fact a very good friend of Oprah Winfrey. But just because she had a platform that was radio or that was books, because she's written so many books, that didn't stop her using the platform online. And so you just have to find the platform, the media that suits you best. If you love to write, write. If you love to talk, like I do, use video or do podcasting. If you feel that you've got a face for radio, I actually kind of hate that term, right? But it also sounds funny. So, you know, in other words, you think that you shouldn't be before a camera, then fine, do podcasts. You know, sometimes I want to do podcasts because I don't necessarily want to put the makeup on and do whatever. In fact, my daughter just said to me, "Mummy, you've got makeup on." And I said, just a little bit of lipstick. You know, that's just how I don't normally wear makeup on a day-to-day basis. But today I felt like there was fire in my belly, right, that I had to get this message out. And the other one that I'm going to talk about probably in the next episode is about your voice and getting your voice out there. But if you feel that video isn't you, then do one of the others. If you're one of these networking people, you know, I met somebody, in fact, she was one of my clients twice over the last number of years. And talk about a networker. She was one of those people that she could make Facebook sing, right? She was no good at blogging, absolutely no good, just couldn't get her head around the software, around the technical elements of it. No matter how much I made it simple, she just couldn't get her head around it. But when it came to Facebook, oh my gosh, she could do it so easily, and she could connect this person with that person, connect you with this event that was going on. She was absolutely fantastic. And in my view, if she's not confident with managing a blog, that's her platform until she gets more confident in terms of using blogging. And I would say find that medium or that media that suits your voice and your personality and that you are absolutely comfortable with, and keep doing that until you are so familiar with it, until it's working for you, and then you can add more. So don't listen to those people who say, you know, you need to be on all platforms, right? I don't wish to be sexist here, right? But if you want to sue me for saying it, then fine. Very often these statements come from men who, some of them actually don't even have children, and I can name some of them in the internet marketing world, and they say you need to be everywhere. And number one, they've built their business up anyway, and so they have other people working for them. I'm very often working with the solo entrepreneur, the person, the woman who is working by herself, and so she cannot do Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, run a blog, do a web TV show, you know, have a podcast. You just cannot, because something is going to give somewhere. And so it's about starting off small and not despising those small beginnings, loving those small beginnings, enjoying them, putting your heart and soul into it, and using that one medium that reflects your voice in a big way on the platform that suits you, and then expanding out from there. So I want to thank you for watching this first episode of The Influential Woman podcast, TV, call it what you will. And I am looking forward to delivering more to you next week on the next Hangout. I'm calling it Hangout now, podcast or whatever. But thank you so much for listening, for watching. If you're listening via iTunes, you're listening. If you're going to be watching this via YouTube. And do me a favor, will you? I want you to subscribe to my channel. And I'm not sure whether I'm doing it left or right now. I think it's this side. And the other thing that I really want you to do is to broadcast this message around. I want you to help me spread this message to other women, because I really want to influence more women to get their voice out there, to get their message out there, and to build their platform. And I can't do it on my own. I am relying on you to help me to do that. And so spread the message, and all you've got to do is share this video. Share this video via Twitter, via Facebook, Google Plus if you're on Google Plus, you know, wherever that suits you. But please share. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of The Influential Woman.